Alright. Hello everybody. I'm here. We're going to start this live stream a little different than usual because I am going to show you how I prepare the cucumber sandwich, because I know one time I did the live stream and I did the egg sandwich, and you got to see how I kind of prepared that. But this time it will be about the cucumber sandwich. So I'm going to give it a moment for some more people to join, because I know everybody's expecting me to start the live stream in like 2 minutes, but yeah, my goal is to try to do this as fast as I can. And what's funny is I started my dishwasher, I swear, like 2 hours ago, and it's still going. It should stop any minute now. Hello David, hello Jake, hello Mr. Olives. Matthew says, hello Alex, how's your afternoon? It's going really well. It's going really well. I had a very productive day making some new content and stuff for you guys. Yeah. The dishwasher isn't too loud, is it? It should stop any minute, but if it's annoyingly loud, I will shut it off. Strasburg says, hi Alex, you know how I was going on vacation today, I saw the United States and the Philadelphia Railroad Station, and I'm in my hotel. What tea and snacks are you going to be eating today? So, the same stuff I always have, cucumber sandwich, along with Scottish shortbread and what's it called? Digestives. And then the tea today will be Irish breakfast tea. People say they don't hear the dishwasher. Okay, well, that's good. Tyler says, hello Alex, got a song for you which I can borrow from the famous 80s song. Okay. David Land says, love the video from yesterday. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that one was quite a divisive video. But let me show you guys how to make the cucumber sandwich. So, let me wash my hands first. I put all of my hand towels in the washing machine, so I have nothing to dry my hands on except paper towels. Alrighty, so oh, the live stream on Friday? Yeah, the live stream on Friday was really intense, but alright, I'm gonna show you guys how to make this, how to make this cucumber sandwich. The camera is like an extreme wide angle, so I apologize for that, but I really want to get a better live stream camera that isn't such a wide angle. But anyway, so first thing, our fresh stuff. And of course, my phone doesn't want to be quiet. Where's my volume? There we go. Aha. Alright. So, I have here extra cucumber. I only use about half a cucumber per sandwich. So, whenever I make the tea sandwich, I don't really need to use a whole cucumber. I wrap it in plastic wrap, save it for later, inspect to make sure there's no mold or anything, because sometimes mold just develops overnight. It's like really crazy. Got my dill here, inspecting that too. Looks perfectly fine. So, for the cucumber, we want to slice off one end of it. We don't eat the end. But, next thing is I like to slice the cucumber in planks, and the reason why, I don't use that either. The reason why is because later on when you want the sandwich to hold together, it actually will hold together much better if the cucumbers are in planks. If they're in circles, they will actually be kind of a mess to hold together. So I'm looking for about 5 slices. I'm being careful not to cut myself, so don't think that it's difficult to cut through this cucumber. It's not, it's just don't want to cut myself. That's 5, and then 1 just in case. Sometimes the slice you cut doesn't work out. So that's about 6 slices just in case I need a 6th one. Now what I need is to chop up the dill. So the dill, really simple here. You don't want the really thick stems, but you do want to keep most of the leaves. As you can see, I'm not spending too much time on carefully picking out the stems. I just don't want the stems that do stay in the mixture to be too thick, because then it would just be crunching through that. And the whole point is the leaves. So I'm just picking off the stuff that'll chop down nicely as opposed to everything else. What's funny was I bought another box of this dill the other day, and when they sent it to me, when it arrived, it was completely rotten. I was like, how could you send this to me? It was absolutely rotten. So now we just cut down the dill till it's, I'd say, just finely chopped. Because the reason why is, even though it's perfectly a soft and edible little herb, if that's what you would call it, is actually, the more you chop it down, the more flavor it releases. So you'll notice I'm removing the leaves from my fingers, so that way I can chop everything as evenly as possible. One more chop. Okay. Now, that goes in the bowl. It's not exactly the safest thing to scrape the way I'm doing, but I have so much experience with it, I actually trust myself very well. And I'm going to use the blade as well to move all these little flecks off to the side, because we want the surface of the board to be clean for the next step. Come on, there we go. Alright. Now, we have the bowl here with the dill, and then next thing comes the cream cheese and the mayonnaise. It's best to use real mayonnaise and real cream cheese, and the reason why is because, believe me, I have tried to use the lighter stuff, but it becomes liquidy as it sits, and the whole sandwich falls apart. I have here a butter knife, quite literally a butter knife, not a dinner knife. I'm going to be using up about maybe 1.5 tablespoons of cream cheese in total. Just enough that it would spread on, let's say, a little more than 1.5 sides of a piece of bread. It's okay to go a little bit more if you're not sure if that's enough. Alright. So, oh, come on. Back in the box. And then we want a little less mayonnaise. So I usually say the ratio is 2 parts cream cheese to 1 part mayonnaise. So if I put 1.5 tablespoons of cream cheese in there, I'm going to want less than a tablespoon of mayonnaise. There we are. Next comes the seasoning. For seasoning, you just want a little sprinkle of garlic powder, just a little sprinkle. Honestly, it probably comes out to maybe a pinch of garlic powder, honestly. You can't even measure it, it's that small. And then for the salt, about a pinch of salt as well. Whoa, too much. Get back in there. Yeah, pinch of salt. Alrighty. So now we're going to mix this, and the way you mix it is you first cut up the cream cheese, because believe me, this will fight you when you're trying to mix it. Cutting the mayonnaise into the cream cheese softens the cream cheese. Now you've got it in large clumps, and then you smush. You smush everything together, making sure not to spill anything out of the bowl. So you just spend your time smushing and smushing, trying to mix the ingredients together, mixing the salt with the garlic and the cream cheese and the dill. All the oils and juices from the dill are getting infused in everything. We don't want big lumps of unmixed cream cheese, but we'll deal with small ones. Thankfully, there's no lumps today. Alright. That is good. The end mixture is very speckled with green. It's hard to tell from this dumb webcam, but it's very speckled with green. It's like heavily infused with dill. Lots of dill. So that's because you want it to taste like dill in every bite. Now, we've got the dry half of our cutting board. Next comes the bread. Traditionally, you would use a type of white sandwich bread. I like to use multigrain bread just because I love multigrain bread, and it's a great way to get your grains, your daily amount of grains. Let me put... Oh, I did put the cream cheese and mayonnaise away. Oh, wow. I didn't even realize I did that. Alright. So, we open up the bread, take half of the spread, and we spread that on. Using an actual butter knife, I find is just a little bit faster, only because the butter knife has an offset shape to it, which allows you to spread things faster without worrying about getting it all over your knuckles and your fingers. Now, the other half. Yes, it is kind of a thick layer, and some people might not want the cream cheese spread to be that thick. That's really up to your own preference. So you can use a little bit less cream cheese, a little bit less mayonnaise, but traditionally you would spread it nice and thick. There's barely any left inside the bowl, but just enough to cover the whole sandwich with a nice thick layer. So that's done. Now we layer the cucumber. And I'll move this down closer. Here we are. I'll use that last if I think I need it. Overlapping the cucumber. Yep, I don't need it that much. But I do need a small one. That big one won't fit in there. Maybe I can even this out a little bit by pulling the slices a bit further back. There we go. Now, normally, once you cover the sandwich, you would wrap it in cellophane and then refrigerate it, so that way it is nice and stiff, because it makes it easier to cut. But we don't have time today for that, so we're just going to cut it straight away. The best way to cut is with a bread knife. Use the weight of the knife to do the cutting. Don't force cut it, or else it'll just fall apart as you're trying to cut it. Using the weight of the knife, it'll cut through the bread first. It takes a while to get through the cucumber. That's okay. Same thing with this side. Cuts through the bread first and very quickly. Takes a while for the cucumber to follow. Alright. And now we would normally clean off the blade to make this look a bit neater and tidier. Now we cut it into fingers, as they call it. That was really easy. Alright. Now, let's see here. Try to move that. Ha. Alright. Now we will set up I have this towel here to protect the dishes in case I slam them down on the counter. So, whoops, I don't use that one. The larger plate is for the sandwiches. There we are. We can have these as we wait. Very good. We have the kettle here. When is that dishwasher going to be done? My God. Okay. So, let's see. Now, we need to prepare the little dishes for the stuff they're going to hold. I have here the sugar bowl, the creamer, the tea infuser. Let me grab the sugar real quick. One hefty spoonful is more than enough. Believe me, it's more than enough for me. I will not use all that sugar. Alright. Inside the sugar bowl goes a demi-tasse spoon. Now, the creamer, you would put cream. I like to drink oat milk or lactose-free milk because I am severely lactose intolerant. I don't fill it more than halfway because I'll never use that much. I know it's funny, I'm super lactose intolerant, but somehow the cream cheese doesn't bother me. I don't know what it is. The cup that's upside down is the one I drink from. The other one is cracked. It is drinkable, but I try not to. I leave that one right side up so people can see it displayed. Now, let me think. We will need to... Oh, yeah, the tea. That's right. Today is Irish breakfast tea. Actually, I will need that plate here. Let's see, 1 teaspoon measure. I like to measure for my own self 1 teaspoon per cup of tea that it makes, plus a half teaspoon for the pot. If it's a really big teapot, you would put a whole extra teaspoon, but this is a really small teapot, so it doesn't need a whole extra teaspoon. But as they say, 1 for you, 1 for the guest, 1 for the pot. Alrighty. And I can place that out of the way somewhere. Alrighty. Now we will commence the usual stuff that you guys are used to seeing. Let's see. I try to get the poster in there. And the Titanic model. Oh well. Okay, so I'm going to plug in this here kettle. I'm going to now fill it with some water. Boil. Now the next thing is to heat the teapot and the teacup up with hot. Sorry, the camera. I'm like looking at the camera. I'm like, it doesn't look like it normally does. Heat up the kettle and the cup with the hottest tap water we have. Sorry, that took a while. It took a second for the hot water to get hot. Dry off my hands. Extra napkins. All right, we are ready to begin to commence the commencing. Oh, I forgot the extra water cup for the extra water. And I like to keep the tea out so people can see what I'm drinking today. There we go. Now I can get to your guys'... Oh, no, I can't. The pastries. Oh, my God. You know... Sometimes when I'm doing this, I feel like that scene from Mrs. Doubtfire, where like Robin Williams is trying to prepare that lady's tea, and he's like all over the place, and he's got like the cake icing on his face. He's like, oh, I need tea! That's what I feel like when I do this sometimes. It's one of my favorite movies, actually, Mrs. Doubtfire. Hilarious. I go through so much effort to make sure like none of my stuff gets stale. I don't know why. I go over the top with wrapping everything. I don't like stuff to be stale. This is the Scottish shortbread I made. I think it's been a week and a half since I made it. It tastes better the longer it sits, believe it or not. But I'm down to only 2 more tea times of it, so I recently bought a new pan that I can cook them in. So I'm excited to do that. There we are. Now we can commence the commencing. I feel like I never have enough space in this corner. Alright, let's see who's been commenting. Oh, gosh. Okay. Strasburg says, Alex, when are you going to do breakfast tea with Chris again? I honestly don't know. The problem is that he lives 1,000 miles away from me. You know, he lives in Southern California. I live up here in Northern Oregon. So it's not easy. He can't always come visit, you know. So... But I wish. It'd be nice. Let's see. Yeah, Matthew, I don't do it this fancy every day, but I do have tea every day. I have a mug of tea. I have a mug of tea every day, but I only do the fancy tea when I'm live with you guys. Only because this is a lot of dishes to wash. Like a lot of, as you can see, a lot of dishes to wash just for one little tea time. And it's not necessary to go through all the fuss with the china just for myself. So now we pre-warm with a little bit of boiling water and the rest of the tap water. There we go. Am I still on screen? Yeah, I'm still on screen. That Titanic is barely on screen. Let's see. Yes, today I'm having Irish breakfast tea. John says, I wish he could do holiday live streams like St. Patrick's Day. You know, I thought about it on St. Patrick's Day, but I had no idea what I was going to do. It just, I had no idea. Mark Cooper says, do you have scones, jam, and clotted cream sometimes? No, I wish I could. I could make them. I know how to make traditional English scones, um, but it's a lot of work. I don't have like the best way to do it is with a food processor because it mixes the mixture up a lot easier, and I have to do it by hand. So I could do it. There's no reason why I can't. The only thing is the clotted cream I'd have to make myself. I could buy some. I'd have to see what the prices are. If the prices were ridiculous to buy clotted cream, I might just have to make it myself. But I could. I really could. But it would be a hassle to do it every day. So it would definitely be a treat for you guys to see. Well, it would be a treat for me to eat, but you guys would be able to see it maybe once or a couple of times. But yeah, it's a bit much to make just for myself. Ow, that's hot. Okay. So now the teapot is properly warmed. I'm going to bring that water back to a boil. Going to empty the teapot because this is only intermediate water, so it's not fully hot enough to brew tea. But it's hot enough that the teapot won't shatter when touched with extremely boiling water. So now I'm going to fill the teapot with the boiling water. We have our Irish breakfast tea in here. Give the teapot a second to let the water cool just a little bit. Okay, and we can drop the tea in there. What is going on? There. Every time. There we go. Okay, I was like, why is the lid not closing? It always closes. Alright, so 5 minutes from now, so if it just turned 4:29, it's going to be 4:34 is when the tea will be ready to consume. Alright. Jake says, do you got any Tim Tams left? No, I had them all. They were really good. And I would buy more of them, but they were so expensive. I was just like, I can't. It was like almost $8 for just one little package of Tim Tams. I was like, I can't do that. Yeah, Mark, I had Tim Tams before. They're so good. Matthew says, what time is it in Oregon? Right now it is 4:30 p.m. So we started this live stream at 4 p.m., which is the start of tea time. Now we're half an hour into tea time. John Spencer says, hey Alex, are you living in California? No, I live in Northern Oregon. And my friend Chris, he lives in Southern California. So I'm 1,000 miles away from him. Let's see. Matthew says, I typically have my dinner at 5 p.m., my tea at 7 p.m., so your live streams are always perfect for my routine. Awesome. That's really cool. Oh yeah, the English scones with the jam and the clotted cream, that is very Cunard. I really should do it. Who knows, maybe if I do it, I'll realize it's not that hard to put together, and maybe I can do that more often. Because I know you make scones, and they should last a couple of days. But the way I see it, I only do live streams every 2 days. So it would only last for 2 live streams. And then I would have it for tea in between the live streams. But yeah, I'm just worried it'll be a lot of work for very little payoff for you guys to see. Yeah, $8 for Tim Tams. It was a bit pricey. I was like, I can't spend that much money on Tim Tams.
Mark says we have them literally falling out of our fridge. That's pretty funny. Um, Ivan says, hi Alex, do they allow one to sit in the cockpit of the Spruce Goose? No, they don't allow anybody to sit in the cockpit. Yeah, they allowed us to walk up close to the cockpit, like really close. Like if I wanted to, I could have like touched the cockpit seats or touched something there, but I didn't want to be that kind of person. But yeah, we got to be real up close with the Spruce Goose and the seating areas, the cockpit, the controls. Like we got to be real up close to that. Strasbourg Rail Fanner says, Alex, do you like trains as much as you like Cunard ships? I'm very specific about what I do like. So I love steam railroads that are American between the years, 1865 and 1900. But I don't say I'm like a full, complete railroad fan because a lot of people take it to mean that I like modern trains, and I really don't. I'm not a modern train fan the way I am of pre-1900 steam railroads. So I'm very specific about railroads. But yes, those kinds of live steam railroads, pre-1900s, I do like them as much as ocean liners. Do I know as much about them as I do ocean liners? I know about how locomotives work. Like I could go on and on about how a classic locomotive works, and I explain all the little parts and pieces. But ocean liners, I tend to know more about them. So it's weird. I like them both just the same, but I tend to know more about ocean liners in general than I do about trains in general. Matthew says, is Queen Mary's third funnel damaged? I heard it was. No, I don't know what's really weird is a lot of people are talking about that. A lot of people are asking what's wrong with the third funnel. That there's nothing wrong with the third funnel. It's just that the company who painted the Queen Mary, Urban Commons, they were so cheap with how they painted the ship that they didn't bother to prime the ship. They didn't bother to clean it before they painted it, and they didn't bother to buy the correct like maritime paint. They just bought like a different kind of paint that you cover things with, but they didn't buy like an actual maritime paint. So the paint is chipping off of lots of areas of the ship. It's most prominent on the third funnel, and it's most prominent on the bow of the ship. But there's nothing wrong with those areas. It's just that the company who had that area painted did not pay to have it done properly. So that's what's wrong with it. But okay, it's time for the tea. I should set a timer, but I'm so everywhere that I don't even pay attention. I like to give that a quick stir to make sure all the flavor is incorporated. I like my tea kind of strong, so it's definitely brewed for longer, and there's definitely more tea leaves in there than you would normally put. That's really hot. Now we dump out the teacup. All right. And I like 1.5 demi-tasse spoons of cream. I'm not cream, sugar. I don't know why I said cream. You guys have probably heard me say this 1,000 times. Stir back and forth, not in circles. It incorporates the sugar a lot faster. Now the milk. Ah, heck. When in Rome. And that is how we make the tea. Something's wrong. I do this every day. More sugar. I thought, like, one of my ingredients was off. I was like, this doesn't taste that good. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is yet. The sugar's fine, the cream is fine. I was worried, I was like, what if the cream is off? I was like, no, the cream is fine. The tea doesn't smell bad. Tea doesn't really go bad. I mean, it's got to be years before it goes bad. Maybe I just brewed it really strong. It's very bitter. I think I just brewed it really strong today. I gotta be careful with the Irish breakfast tea. The Earl Grey and the English breakfast tea, I can usually brew those pretty strong and I feel fine about it, but this Irish tea is extremely strong today. That's better. I don't know what that was, but... Alright. Let's see. Ivan says, I saw there was over 100 people watching at one point during your Queen Mary live stream. That's good, because there was a lot of information in there that needed to be said, honestly. It's really sad because I've known QMI for 6 months. You know, last year when I started making Queen Mary videos, I wanted to help the ship by getting the word out. I wanted to use whatever influence I had on YouTube, which is funny because some people are like, oh, you only make these videos to make your channel better. I'm like, no, if I wanted to only make Queen Mary videos to make my channel better, then what I'd be doing is, the Queen Mary's haunted, oh, I ran into a demon, oh no, like, that's what I'd do if I wanted to make my channel more popular. I would not be making the kinds of Queen Mary videos I do. Because believe me, those videos don't get the kinds of views that I would hope they would. So, no. I make the videos because I want people to learn more. When I made the 3-part series about the Queen Mary in World War II, so many people watched that and they were like, I didn't know all this stuff. And I'm like, you know, that is why I made it. I made it because I've read several books on the subject, and I realized there was so much in there that I didn't see anywhere else. I didn't see people talking about it online. I didn't see articles about, like, half the stuff I was mentioning. And I realized most people don't know this stuff. And I'd like to make a video that gets that information to them faster. Because let's face it, I would totally recommend the books that I have of the Queen Mary to you guys. Some people are really busy and they can't read books right now. Some of these books are, forgive me for saying it, some of these books are pretty boring. You have to be like a real fan to want to read them. And I do. So that's the reason why I made these videos, is because I was like, you know what, I can translate this stuff into something extra interesting to bring to people without overblowing the seriousness or the credibility of it. So anyway, the point is that I wanted to use my channel to give the Queen Mary a voice. And I'm not, PewDiePie or anything. I don't have a million or several billion viewers, whatever. I have, 20,000 subscribers. But that's enough that I think if I use what influence I have to teach people new stuff about the Queen Mary, more people can appreciate it. And I think I have seen that. I've had some people say, you know what, I've always liked the Queen Mary, but now I love the Queen Mary. And I'm like, that's really all this is about, So when I met QMI 6 months ago, they actually called me up and they said, hey, your videos are really good, have you I forget what they were asking, but something along the lines of if I'm involved at all in the Queen Mary's restoration. And at the time, in a way, I was contacted by some guy who saw my videos, who wanted to help, and then a couple months in, he goes completely silent. Completely. Just stop talking. So I was like, all right, well, I guess this fell through. And I went back and told QMI, I'm like, I'm available. If you guys need anything from me that can help the ship, I'm here. And ever since then, QMI and I have been working together to get the correct information about the ship out. That's why I have so many update videos about the Queen Marys, because we talk with each other constantly. If they speak to city officials on the phone, they will record what the city officials say, because they have to. They're a nonprofit. They have to be able to prove that they're in talks with the city. They have to be able to prove that they are making efforts. So if they talk with the city or something, they keep in contact with me and they keep me updated what's going on. I'm not an insider. Some people are like, oh, Alex thinks he's an insider. It's like, I'm not an insider. Most of the information I give people is public anyway. The only problem is that the city's website is really hard to navigate. I don't know if you guys have tried this. Have you tried to go to Long Beach's website and try to get their public information downloaded? It is so hard to find. In QMI, they're really good at getting on that website and getting out the information. So that's what they do. They give me the PDF files and everything. I read it all. I go through it all. That's how I know so much about what's happening with the Queen Mary right now. So yeah, and when we talked about doing this live stream, I was like, let's do this. Let's do it, because the ship needs this information to be said. Sure, they're repairing the ship right now, but at what cost? How much of that money is going somewhere else? And where is it going? And why are they being so secretive about it? And why aren't they using QMI's help? The city says, oh, we need help establishing funding. Well, QMI has been talking to them for 10 years. Why won't the city just say, okay, come help? Like, last September, I was part of the group at that time. Last September, they told QMI, come meet us at the ship. We'll have a meeting with the city officials and with QMI, and we'll decide how they can help. So, Mary Rower and a bunch of other board members went to the Queen Mary. They met with city representatives at the Queen Mary. They did their usual, how can we help and who do we sign the check to thing. And they told them, this is, the city of Long Beach was like, oh, we could use some help raising funding for the lifeboats. QMI said, great, we'll do it. Immediately, they're like, we'll do it. We'll will raise money for the lifeboats, get them refreshed. At the time, the idea was to take all the lifeboats down carefully, have QMI fund the complete restoration of all the lifeboats and the davits and the structure they sit on, and then move all the original lifeboats back up there after they were completely refreshed. That was the original plan. I remember it because I was going to make a video for the city on it. I said, how can I help? QMI said, we need to be able to tell them our game plan, and the city wants all the lifeboats refreshed. So they're like, let's make a video. So I was like, okay, great. I was putting all the information together on how to make, on how to do everything and how we're going to fund it. And then eventually Mary and I had a conversation after a long time, and she was like, you know what? They're not going to call me back. She's like, I've been calling and calling and calling and trying to establish a way to give them our game plan, and they don't want to hear it. And, and every time they do answer back, they're like, oh, we're busy right now. We'll talk to you later. And then they don't. And it's like, I don't get it. Now the city is giving away the lifeboats, and they're only doing it in like less than a 60-day period, which is not fast enough for everybody to get the permits they need to take the lifeboats. And I'm like, I don't get it. We were offering the money and the influence to refresh all the lifeboats and their davits and put them all back up there again. And the city went silent. Why? So I'm frustrated too. Sorry, that was a huge rant, but that's why I did the live stream, because I was like, I don't understand this. I don't understand why the city would just not. And they don't tell QMI why. They don't tell QMI like, oh, these are the reasons why we don't like you guys. They don't say anything. If they had an issue, it's like they haven't said anything. They should. All right, so Mark says, Alex, are those McVitie's chocolate digestives? Yes, they are. They're McVitie's chocolate digestives. They're really delicious. I remember my brother-in-law was having tea with me and my sister, and he was like, what are these cookies? I'm like, they're digestives. And he goes, are they actual digestives? Like, do they help your digestive tract? I'm like, no. I'm like, they're just, tea biscuits. And he was like, well, that doesn't sound very appetizing. But he enjoyed them. He had them, and he was like, oh, those are pretty good. Yeah, you can also get them in dark chocolate. Those were a little bit more expensive, so I just went with the traditional ones. David Lyon says, "Do you your love for tea time? Do you think you were English in a past life?" I don't know. I think so. I know my mom's side of the family, down their family tree, they are related to people from England and Ireland. Like one family member came from England, another one came from Ireland. They married each other. They moved to the United States and stuff like that. Way down the line. So there is a little bit of British blood in me. Way down the line, but my mom was always obsessed with the UK. She loved Northern Ireland and then of course Ireland itself, the Republic of Ireland, I guess it's called, and England, and she loved that stuff. I kind of was into it, but yeah, it's really weird. I've always been somewhat of an Anglophile. I have a great respect for Queen Elizabeth. I think she's an amazing lady. On my list of people that I consider influential in my life, Queen Elizabeth is one of them. I think she's an amazing lady. So, yeah, I almost feel like at times I'm like, at heart I'm British, So, one day, if I have enough money, I'd love to live in the UK. I don't mind if I live in England or Scotland. Well, I want to live in the mainland UK, I should say. Ireland is nice, but Northern Ireland is nice, but I think all the stuff I want to see and do on a day-to-day basis is on the UK mainland, where England and Scotland are, and Wales as well. But yeah, I kind of, at times, I'm like, sometimes I feel like sometimes I feel like a Brit trapped in an American's body. Yeah, so Matthew says, tonight I'm having tea with honey Nutella sandwiches and some mint cookies. Oh, that sounds really good. John says, if you hadn't seen the train museum, just up one, OMSI, that's the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. Oregon Rail Heritage Center has some nice steam trains. I've heard of that. Yeah, I think that's where they also have the 4449, which is my friend's favorite locomotive. Yes, God save the Queen. Oh, I worry too, actually, because, Queen Elizabeth, like I said, she's one of the most influential people in terms of famous people in my life. And she is getting older. And after Prince Philip passed away, I was like, oh boy, I hope she doesn't go soon. This is not the time for Queen Elizabeth to go. And Prince Charles will be next. It's funny because people think Prince Charles is just like waiting to be king. He told a reporter once, because the reporter's like, oh, are you looking forward to being king? Or something along those lines. And he responded, you do realize my mother would have to die first. And I was like, that is the perfect thing to say, because it's true. He's not waiting to be king. He loves his mother. He doesn't want her to die, like, not in the world, but, yeah. And the other thing, too, is that it's funny because I'm not a university-educated historian. I don't mind telling people that. I'm a history buff, but as a history buff, I can recognize when a certain system works. It's not perfect. I don't think there is a perfect government out there. But I think that when you have a good monarch like Queen Elizabeth, I think it works in your country's favor. One of the reasons why is because, living in the United States, every 8 years or so, we have a new president. And that completely changes the political climate. That completely changes the way we think of everything. I mean, just look at the difference between when Obama was president and when Trump was president. There was a huge cultural shift. And some people don't see it. I see it. I see the cultural shift with every president. Not just Trump, but every president. Things change all of a sudden. It's real fast, and it's almost like whiplash. And the things those presidents do, even if they're really good things and they're really influential, that influence seems to disappear once they're out of office. So if a president does something that's really, really great, it disappears. After the next president comes in, it's almost like the world forgets that president once did something really great. But with Queen Elizabeth, she does something really great, and it's remembered for decades. Because she's still there. She's still around. She's still doing something. So I think that what's great about having a monarchy is that if you have a really great monarch at the helm, their kindness, their influence can help keep everything more stable. The relations between countries with the UK a lot of them are very firm because of the fact that the monarch has befriended them a long time ago, and they're still friends. And that's something that doesn't usually happen in the United States, only because with every president, the president will treat those allies differently. One year, one term, a president may be very friendly to certain allies, but then the next president might be more friendly to the other allies. So that kind of thing changes. And having a monarch actually helps stabilize that. And so some people think that monarchies are really extravagant. Yeah, they can be, obviously. I mean, they have to host, dinners and things like that with other heads of state and other kings, queens, and such. So yeah, those things can be expensive, but at the same time, it's not like you're gonna, invite the Prince of Morocco to a McDonald's dinner. You can't do that. So they have to be extravagant. But I think Queen Elizabeth does it really well because she recognizes that those kinds of things are expensive. And over the years, she has pushed to make what the monarchy spends on a lot cheaper. So, for instance, she doesn't have her own private railroad the way her grandmother Queen Victoria did. She doesn't have, a train. Like Queen Victoria had her own private train that went around the UK. Queen Elizabeth doesn't have that. If she needs to travel by train, she goes by public train. They might empty out the car that she's in and have security in there, but still, she takes a public train. She takes public airlines whenever she travels, unless it's something really important and she needs to have her private jet. But she tries to spend everything, what's the word? Thoughtfully. So yeah. Hey Sarah, glad you made it. You just finished, you just missed my rant about, about how much I love monarchies. So, oh my gosh. Let's see. Jake says, Alex, people over here say the royal family is racist. There could be racist people in the royal family. I don't know who would be. It's certainly not Queen Elizabeth or Prince Philip. Those two are... They are so used to meeting people from all over the world. Usually the senior members of the royal family, meaning the Queen and her immediate family, they're used to traveling everywhere and experiencing every culture. I find people who live in a very populated area with other kinds of cultures and religions tend to be more open-minded about those things because they're used to being around them. And I think Queen Elizabeth and her immediate family, they're used to being around all kinds of cultures. And they love them, and they do things to support them. And, I remember when 9/11 happened here in the United States, the globe felt that same sadness with us. And following that, there was a lot of racism towards people who were Middle Eastern, whether or not their country had anything to do with what happened. I had a friend who was Lebanese, and he was a great friend of mine, and I watched as kids at school bullied him. One father even saw his son, making fun of my friend, and he was just like, oh, we don't talk to, what did he say? To Middle Eastern people or something like that. And as a kid, I'm watching this, and I'm like, how could people be like that? He's Lebanese. It has nothing to do, Lebanon had nothing to do with anything. So while that happened, and there was a whole lot of prejudice towards Islamic people, Queen Elizabeth immediately went to visit mosques all over the UK and visit with them and show that she was there to understand them. And some people will be like, oh, well, the Queen, blah, blah, blah. But the reason why she was there is because Queen Elizabeth doesn't have prejudices like that. maybe she's prejudiced towards certain things, but not people. And she wanted to show, like, the monarch is here to enjoy these people's time and enjoy their culture. And so it was a way for a leader to say, this is how we should act towards others. And that's beautiful. That's exactly what a monarch is for. A monarch should show their people the proper way to treat other cultures, and so that's one of the things I love about Queen Elizabeth. So, yeah. So, all right. Well, let's see. Oh, is Jake leaving? Oh, okay, I'll see you later, Jake. But yeah, there might be someone in the royal family who is racist. It's hard to say because we can't read people's minds. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, they both had that famous interview. I don't know. I wasn't there, obviously. I'm not going to make snap judgments. But all I know is I don't know what happened to them in the family, but what they're doing now, I don't agree with. So, if you're going to leave your royal duties, I mean, do I think it's okay that they left their royal duties? Okay isn't the word. I feel like if a royal really, really wants to get out of that life, then as a human person, you have a right to seek happiness. But at the same time, that duty is very important to your country. So no matter how you feel about it, you're affecting your country. But like I said, if you're very, very unhappy and it's that bad, then I think a royal should be able to step down and leave. And they did. And they left their duties and they went to do their own thing. But then right afterwards they decided that they were going to use their royal titles to make contracts. And I thought, that's not right. It's one thing if you want to leave your duty to be happy, but then to use your former title to make money, I don't agree with that. So, yeah. It's complicated. Oh, yeah, Andrew. Oh my God. Andrew's terrible. And it's unfortunate because Andrew's actions reflect on the family. That's terrible. But you know what? The thing is that it's easy for some people, I'm not saying you are, but it's easy for some people to say, oh, well, if Andrew's that way, the rest of the family must be that way. That's not true. I have members of my family, not my dad's side of the family, but I have members of my family who, let's just say, they're not open-minded people, and they are not people I want to associate with. That's on my mother's side, but, the thing is that the way those members of my family think and act does not reflect who I am. I distance myself from that. Unfortunately, Andrew is the Queen's son, and that's really complicated because mothers love their children. Do I agree that she's protecting him? No. Do I understand it? Yeah, I unfortunately do. But at the same time, it's like, despite what that guy is doing, what she's still doing for the world is much more important than that. Yeah. As you can see, it's really complex. Sarah, yeah, I'm worried about that too, actually. I don't want her to go. I'm not sure what Charles will be like as a monarch. They say he's a really nice guy, and I've learned a little bit about what his interests are in terms of what he wants to be as a monarch. But honestly, he's so different from his mother. I just hope that the difference is a positive difference, you know. I will tell you that one thing, though. I am totally behind William and Kate. I know a lot of people are like, oh, William and Kate, they're such a nice-looking couple, but for me, it's more about who they are as people. I think they're amazing people. So... So I filmed some videos today. I realized that there are videos I need to make, like my Spruce Goose video, my Benson Hotel video, that kind of thing. And it takes so long to make those mini documentaries. Yes, Sarah, I agree. I don't wish death on anyone, but I do really like William and Kate. But yeah, so there are a lot of things I need to do, but the videos take so long to produce, and I'm like, there has to be a way to get content out faster to people without decreasing the quality of the content. And so when I did that video about like the exhausting facts about funnels and stacks, people liked that one, and I thought I could probably do stuff more like that in between my documentary videos. That way I can get content out faster, so it's keeping people's attention, keeping them coming back, and then in between that will be like the documentary stuff that will take me a bit longer to make. So today I filmed I think 4 different episodes. Just me sitting in the corner there talking about various topics. And I realized also I had to film a very short, brief history of the Spruce Goose, because as I was doing more research on the Spruce Goose, I realized there was so much more I wanted to talk about, and the more I want to talk about in a video, the longer it's going to take to make that video. So I realized I'm like, well, I can't make people wait another God knows how long, like month or 2 months for a Spruce Goose video. So what I'll do is I'll make a short video where I talk about a brief history of the Spruce Goose, and then I'll publish that, and then I'll have the big documentary out later. More tea. Alrighty. What is today? Sunday? So tomorrow, I think I'll have one of those short videos out for you guys tomorrow. Thankfully, they don't take long to edit, I don't think. So I think I'll have one of those short videos out for you guys tomorrow. And then Tuesday will be another tea time. Wednesday, I'll probably have to do a special type of live stream. I'm trying to experiment and see if I can do something every day. Some kind of content every day. Because I do want the channel to grow, and it's growing at a snail's pace. This other YouTuber I follow, I like their channel, and they recently got, I think it was 20,000 subscribers. And they had only been around for a year. I'm like, dang it, I've been around for 5 years, and I barely passed 20,000 subscribers last year, So I'm like, oh, I want to build the channel faster. So I'm like, maybe if I produce content every day, it'll have more of a chance of reaching a bigger audience. I don't know. Oriana says, I was born when the Queen was in her 48th year as monarch. Oh, wow. Speaking of the Queen, you know that she actually visited the Queen Mary when she was a little girl. Before the RMS Queen Mary was was put into service, they invited the royal family on board to tour the ship. And so at the time, the king was the newly... He wasn't crowned yet, so what do I say? It was King Edward the Eighth. He wasn't crowned yet, but he had just become king because his father died a few months earlier. But anyway, he was the king, and his mother, Queen Mary, came along with the Duke and Duchess of York, which was Queen Elizabeth II's mother and father. And then, of course, Queen Elizabeth and her younger sister, Margaret, were there. And Queen Elizabeth and Margaret were little kids. I think Queen Elizabeth was maybe 12 years old. I can't remember off the top of my head, but maybe 12 years old. This was 1936, so you guys tell me. I think she was 12. And then, so her and her sister went to play in the first-class children's playroom, and they went down the slide, and ever since then, Cunard called it the Royal Slide. And then Queen Mary, meanwhile, was in the main hall, and she was presenting her royal standard. They showed her that there was a marble medallion of her face. It was a bas-relief medallion of her face. And King Edward VIII had said under his breath, "My, what a horrible scowl mother has," when looking at the face she had on the thing. So, yeah, she wasn't known for her smiling. That's why. But yeah, so really funny. But as far as I know, the only royals to actually be on a voyage on the Queen Mary was the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, or King Edward VIII after he abdicated, I should say. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, she had toured and sailed aboard the original Queen Elizabeth. But yeah, the original Queen Mary, I don't think anybody else, any royals, sailed aboard her besides the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. So, Thomas says Queen Elizabeth was 10 at the time. Okay, that makes sense. And then Margaret would have been 8. Was that right? Von Doom says, I subscribed yesterday after finding your Why I Hate the Titanic. Such a nicely detailed video. I'm learning to appreciate all the other sister ships thanks to you. Thanks. Did I title it Why I Hate the Titanic? I don't think so, because I don't hate the Titanic. What did I title that video? That doesn't seem right. I did Why I Hate Normandy. Yeah, the Normandy video, it had stuff I really thought should be said, because I've noticed that when it comes to the ocean liner community, they're all very nice people, but the problem is that if anybody says anything negative about Normandy, I notice that they all pounce on them. And I was like, it's normal for people to express their opinion. It's not right to say, oh, you can't dislike that ship. That's wrong of you to dislike that ship. And it's like, that's not, you can't tell someone that. That's not, an opinion on a preference is not something that you can say is right or wrong. It just is. And so I was like, I'm going to make this video because I myself don't like the Normandy. I don't hate the Normandy, but I did need that title, I will admit. That title is what gets people to click on things. But I don't like the Normandy. By any means, no. I can appreciate her art. I can appreciate her artistry. I can appreciate the work that went into it. I can also appreciate that it is the perfect example of French Art Deco style. Perfect example of it. But I'm not into French Art Deco style. I like British Art Deco style and American Art Deco style. So I don't really like Normandy. But I knew that if I made that video, people would hate me for it. And I was like, it has to be said. Because people need to understand that not everybody can agree on everything. You know, there are going to be people who don't like Normandy, and they should be allowed to say, oh yeah, I don't like Normandy. You know? You know, my friend Chris, he does videos on Disney rides, but he's not a Disney fan. He just makes videos on the rides. He enjoys certain rides. He enjoys certain things that the Disney parks have. But he's not a Disney fan, and someone in his comments was basically saying he's wrong. Like, that's not right that he's not a Disney fan. They assume that he can't enjoy anything because he's not a Disney fan. I'm like, you don't have to be a Disney fan to enjoy a Disney park, you know? And so that was something that I was like, it's the same thing in the ocean liner community. They say, if you say like, oh, I enjoy ocean liners, but I'm not a fan of this ship, then they'll be like, well, then you're not an ocean liner fan. And it's like, that's not true. People have preferences. The truth about Titanic. Okay. I was wondering what I titled it. I was like, I hope I didn't title it I Hate Titanic, because I don't hate Titanic. Cunard Line says, hey Alex, I'll give you a shout out soon. Oh, thanks. Mike says, the Normandy's bow just doesn't look right. I agree. I think the bow doesn't look right to me. I prefer the older bows of like the more classic ships. No, so Eric B., the reason why I said that they weren't allowed to solicit donations was because so if you're a foundation that's not 501c, yeah, you can solicit donations. But they had theirs revoked. It's different than it being, it's different than their 501c status expiring, or maybe if they canceled their 501c status, that's different. Theirs was revoked. The IRS literally said, you're doing something wrong, we're taking it away. And in the bottom of the paper, it literally says, the IRS says it. I didn't show that paper on the screen. I have it on my computer if you want me to show you. But on that paper, from the IRS, it says that this business cannot, what's the exact wording? Cannot solicit donations. And that's because theirs was revoked. The IRS doesn't trust them. So that's why I said it. So, yeah. That's why it was so weird, because I was like, this organization is not allowed to be soliciting donations. It says so right on their revocation paper. But they are. And it makes people wonder why. Matthew says, if only we had ocean liners in service today that looked how they did back then. Yeah, I agree. I think about that all the time. I'm like, yeah, okay. Just a second, Eric. Just a second. Let's see. I can use my email thing, I think. Alrighty. This one, that one. Email. Let's see here. Oh, wrong one. This one. And this one. Okay. I'm ready to move the camera to you. All right, so I'm going to move the camera over there real quick, and then I will show you guys what I'm talking about. So maybe I can minimize this real quick, and then I need to make sure that I can see what I'm showing you. All right, so this is from the Department of Justice. So I thought it was the IRS, but this is Department of Justice. I do have the IRS one. This is public information, by the way. I'm not showing anything private. This is public information that people can get. And then it's the disallowance of revocation of tax-exempt status. And if we scroll down here, I have highlighted the wording. The organization may not engage in any activity, including but not limited to solicitation of charitable donations. And then the other goes until registration with our office is complete. The failure to immediately resolve the deficiencies listed above may result in the loss of tax-exempt status with the franchise board. Now, this was sent July 1st, 2021. Their revocation happened in 2017. They have up to 3 years to resubmit their information and request that they be reinstated. The problem is they never did, and they were revoked. The 501c status was revoked. They are not allowed, because of the revocation, to solicit charitable donations. So that's why. And then I have the other paper. I don't want to show you my email stuff, but let me go to the other paper. This is the IRS form. All right, this is the IRS form, Queen Mary Heritage Foundation. And then if we look down, they're on the auto revocation list. So they are on the list of revoked things. So that's with the Attorney General and the IRS. So that is why. Oh gosh. Let me see. Get the camera back on there. Is it pointing the right? Yeah, it's pointing the right direction. Alrighty. Whew. And thank goodness for QMI, because I wouldn't have been able to find that myself. Honestly, it's on there. These government websites sometimes make things so difficult to find. But whew. Okay, so. David says, I learned a lot from your channel. Cunard was before White Star Line. Yeah. A lot of people think that Cunard is a newer company, but they've been around. They were like one of the in fact, they were the first ocean liner line company. They didn't have the first ocean liner, but they were the first steamship ocean liner company. the wording is, you have to be very careful with the wording, because if you don't have it exact, then you might overlap into somebody else's territory where they are the first of something. But Cunard was the first steamship ocean liner company. And right now, they are the last of those companies to be operating an ocean liner in ocean liner service. Yeah, the word's got to be said properly. It's the same thing with the Queen Mary. Like, you can't say, oh, she's the last ocean liner, because people will be like, but the SS United States, or the Rotterdam, or the, people, or the QE2, and people. So you got to say the Queen Mary is the last pre-war transatlantic ocean liner. Yeah. Sarah says, I feel like I'm at work attending a seminar. I look at these IRS revocations all the time. Yeah, it's, oh gosh. Yeah. Tom Katz says the Calshot Tug Tender used to tow the Queen Mary and Olympic into Southampton for years among the other ocean liners. The tender is still here in Southampton in preservation. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Von Doom says, do you like the designs of cruise ships, such as the Carnival Cruise Line, for example? No. The Queen Mary 2 is an ocean liner, but I will say that she's the closest to a cruise ship that an ocean liner has been, in that sense, because when you look at the Queen Mary 2, she looks like a cruise ship. And the Queen Mary 2 is where I draw the line. There's something about cruise ships I don't like looking at. I'm not a cruise ship person. But in my past live streams, I have said that I do think Cunard cruise ships look really nice, though. Again, there's something off about the way that they look. They're so synthetic in their look. I mean, obviously, a lot of the wood paneling is not real, because there's a law against having wood paneling on cruise ships. But yeah, I'm not a cruise ship person, generally. Yeah. So the closest I could ever appreciate looking at a cruise ship is the Queen Mary 2, and that's, even then, she's an ocean liner. So, I don't know what it is. I think a lot of people would say, oh, it's the boxy shape, and I would say, yeah, cruise ships do have a weird boxy shape to them. Short bows, they're extra wide and weird looking. I don't know. They don't look like ships to me. Like, I like ships because they look like ships. You know what I mean? But cruise ships look like floating buildings. Buildings, as people say, on their side. And they're just floating around, and I don't like the way that they look. They just bother me. I would never want to stay on a cruise ship. Yeah. But mostly the reason why I wouldn't want to stay on a cruise ship is because most cruise lines, there's something undignified about the way that they look, with their whimsical designs, like Carnival especially. The reason why Carnival is called Carnival is because when you would go on their ships used to look like they were inspired by these whimsical carnival themes. And I was like, oh my god, that is so tacky, you know? Yeah. The closest I would come, if someone said, Alex, here is, $5,000, go on a cruise. The first thing I would do if I had to choose a cruise was Cunard. Because I will not do those other ships. No. Um, yeah, Alan, you're right. Building cruise ships to look like classic liners would be too inefficient. And yeah, people like their balconies. I mean, that's the number one problem with the Queen Mary 2 was they were like, how do we build an ocean liner that people today will enjoy? Because people today expect balconies on cruise ships. Like, no one. I mean, let's admit it. I mean, people. I know we're all part of the ocean liner. Well, the people who are watching are part of the ocean liner community, and they're like, oh, well, we will love staying on a classic liner, and I would too. But from a perspective of someone who's paying a lot of money, you want a good view of the ocean. And the problem with ocean liners is that they go into some really rough weather. And the reason why ocean liners usually didn't have balconies was because of the fact that the more glass you install on an ocean liner, the more likely that glass is eventually going to break due to weather. You know, it maybe a rogue wave hits it or something and smashes the glass in, or maybe the wind is blowing so hard and the glass is large enough that it cracks and breaks. That happens. It used to happen on Queen Mary as well, on the promenade decks. Those are the biggest windows on the ship, is the promenade decks. And when the wind would hit those, if it was hard enough, the glass would just break. And so yeah, so you couldn't have too much giant open windows on ships back then. And Queen Mary 2, that was their number one problem, was how do we give people what they want versus what the ship requires for this rough weather? And they did an amazing job. I'll tell you, they did an amazing job. They managed to give it all those balconies while still managing to design it the way an ocean liner needs to be designed. That being said, they still do have problems of getting smashed windows or leaks when there is major storms. People will show videos and stuff of like a little bit of water trickling up through the bottom of a window or something. So, yeah. Matthew says, I think I would like cruise ships a lot better if they weren't so ugly and intimidating. I will admit, cruise ships are huge. When I was one time, I haven't seen very many cruise ships with my own eyes. I'll admit that. I'm a Southern California native. I haven't seen too many cruise ships before. I've seen the really small Carnival ships that stop over by the Queen Mary. But those are relatively small. But I was in San Francisco once, and I was walking along the piers, and they had a giant princess ship. And it's funny because one of my friends was laughing. He's like, princess ships aren't big. And I'm like, this was the biggest I've ever seen. And this thing was huge. Like, I was not used to seeing it. It was like 14 stories tall. And I was like, people stay on that thing? You know, like, it's huge. And so, yeah, that's the biggest ship I've ever seen with my own eyes was a princess ship. But yeah, I much prefer looking at the Queen Mary when we drive up to it. It's so classic looking, so beautiful. I just love it. Oriana says cruise ships look like a miniature city with a cheap bow. Yeah. Tyler says, unfortunately, Carnival is what's keeping Cunard in business. That's not necessarily true. I mean, it's true in the sense that Carnival owns Cunard, but that's only because Cunard was going through some tough times in the late 90s, early 2000s, because that was where Cunard was starting to realize that their ocean liner dreams were not going to happen. You know, that they had to stop doing ocean liners and start really focusing on cruises. And so yeah, there was some issues, and then they became bought out by Carnival, but Cunard remained its own subsidiary. So they're still a British company, they just up down the lines, they're owned by Carnival. But that being said, they've since rebuilt themselves, and now they have a fleet of 4 ships. 3 of them cruise ships, and 1 of them is an ocean liner. And they've built themselves up since then, and I think they're doing really well. They're growing, if you think about it. They wouldn't be building new ships if they weren't growing. So I don't think they necessarily need Carnival to stay afloat. I think, honestly, what it is that Cunard is such a small company now that they don't want to get bought out by some other company who's going to destroy them, Because sometimes that happens. Bigger companies will buy out a smaller company and sell off the pieces, and that company will disappear. And Cunard didn't want that to happen, and Carnival is dedicated to keeping Cunard. So that's a good thing. Yeah. Matthew says, as for now, I only plan to sail with Cunard. Me too. If I ever go on cruises, it'll be with Cunard. But I don't think I plan to do cruises, but as I've told everybody before, one of my biggest plans is to try to sail aboard the Queen Mary 2 on a transatlantic crossing. That's one of my biggest goals in life, is to do a transatlantic crossing. Mike says, a cruise ship is like Disneyland today. Squeeze in as many people as you can. Yeah. Alan says, the royal class of princesses are over 140,000 tons. Yeah, that's huge. That's, my God. 140,000 tons. I mean, for comparison, the Queen Mary was 81,000 tons. And the Queen Mary's big. And she's made of solid steel. And these big cruise ships are made of a little bit of steel with a lot of really lightweight aluminum. So they're really light. And the fact that it's almost twice as big as the Queen Mary with lighter materials really means that these are giant ships. Yeah, so... Yeah, I really want to take that transatlantic crossing. I feel like that's something in my life that I need to do. I'm such an ocean liner fan now. I feel like I need to experience that, So, yeah. Oh boy. What time is it? Is it 5:40? Yeah, Matthew, the Matthew Mahoney. Yeah, Disney does try to make their cruise ships look like the old ocean liners, which I give them credit for, because honestly, I understand that, cruise ships need to be cruise ships. You can't make every ship a perfect looking ocean liner. So the fact that they try I give them kudos to that. And Disney cruise ships, they look nice for families, They're not tacky. That's one of the things I love, is that I've seen some tacky cruise ships, but Disney cruise ships don't look tacky. They look family friendly, but not tacky. So I do like that. I just wouldn't sail with them though. I still prefer Cunard. I think the Cunard's Queen Elizabeth, the current one, is designed in like an Art Deco style. Looks really nice for what it is. And then Queen Mary 2, though, is my favorite of them. Not just because she's an ocean liner, but because she's got that Art Deco style that looks amazing. Oh, Mike, you gotta go to start dinner. Alright, see you later, Mike. Thomas says, Alex, I'm glad we have people like you and other ocean liner enthusiasts to help people know about classic ocean liners and the history of them. Thank you. Matthew says, I've been an ocean liner enthusiast for 10 years. Yeah, I'm more recent to the ocean liner community, but I have developed this great love for them because, growing up, I never really realized how rare ocean liners were. You know what I mean? Like, it's a culture that is disappearing because there aren't as many anymore. But as long as there are still ships like the Queen Mary 2, the QE2, the SS United States, the Hikawa Maru in Japan, those ships like that help keep the memories of ocean liners alive. And that's why I'm so adamant about the Queen Mary. That's why I'm so involved and so dedicated to it, is because the Queen Mary is the one ocean liner that we have that we can explore. You'd have to go to other places to explore those other liners, like the QE2, going all the way to Dubai. But the Queen Mary is almost, she's still got a whole lot of her original stuff on there. SS United States, I'm reluctant to say too much because obviously she's completely gutted. Almost nothing original is left on the ship. Nothing of value. So, but the Queen Mary still has a whole lot. And the Queen Mary is, like, if I have it correctly, the last pre-war transatlantic ocean liner left. And, the Queen Mary is the only example we have now. I know it's funny because some people, they go on the Queen Mary and they're like, oh, it's like Titanic, and I understand that that's an annoying thing to say because it's not like the Titanic. But if you think about it, the Queen Mary is the closest thing we have to a Titanic ocean liner today. The next best thing is the Nomadic tender. Nomadic was the little tender ship that brought people from Cherbourg onto the Titanic and onto the Queen Mary. And Nomadic was designed at the same time as Titanic by the same builders and the same architects and engineers. So it looks like Titanic. So thankfully the Nomadic is still around, and it was wonderfully restored. But when it comes to ocean liners, the Queen Mary is the closest thing you have to all those other ships, all those other beautiful liners of the time. And whether or not you think she's a beautiful ship, she is that connection to those times. So, David says, were you always an ocean liner fan? If not, when did that change? I wasn't always an ocean liner fan. I became interested in Titanic after seeing the movie in theaters in 1997. And ever since then, I've liked Titanic. In 2012, I built this Titanic model behind me. And in order to build that model, I had to learn about a lot more about Titanic to understand it and build it as accurately as I could, which today is not accurate by any means. It's got to be redone. But I did learn a lot about Titanic in 2012, and that's when I became really obsessed with Titanic. And I didn't break out of that bubble until my last visit on the Queen Mary. I grew up in Southern California, so the Queen Mary was always in my backyard, so to speak, and I always had an opportunity to visit Queen Mary, and I rarely took that opportunity because back then I didn't know anything about the ship, and nobody talked about it to me back then, and I just assumed it was some old ship that was a lot newer than Titanic, and I was like, oh no, I like Titanic because she's an old ship and stuff like that. But so growing up, I visited the Queen Mary a few times, but couldn't really appreciate it. But in 2020, before the pandemic really hit the United States, my friends and I were like, oh, let's hang out on the Queen Mary. And I thought, oh, that'd be great. At the time, I was filming vlogs, Disneyland vlogs. My channel was all focused on Disneyland. And I thought, you know what? I think Walt Disney used to ride the Queen Mary across the Atlantic. And at one point, the Walt Disney Company had owned the lease to the Queen Mary. So I thought, well, there's a great Disney connection there. I can film a vlog on my time on the Queen Mary, and my Disney fans will watch. And so I filmed the vlog on the ship, but in order to film the vlog, I thought, well, I want to get some really great information on the ship so I can tell people the information on the vlog. So what I did was, before visiting the ship, I did some research. And I remember that night, it was literally the night before. I remember that night because I remember we were going to meet up early in the morning, go to the Queen Mary, and be there the whole day, just walk around. And I thought, this is going to be cool. And I'm looking up information on the Queen Mary. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. She was a troop ship. Oh, that's cool. She was, this and that. And then as I'm digging deeper and deeper, I remember just being glued to the screen. I was like, whoa, the Queen Mary was part of that. And, oh, she did this. And she was the first that. And I was like, wait a minute, Winston Churchill? I was like, Winston Churchill was a big part of the Queen Mary? Because at the time I was obsessed with the show The Crown. And so, Winston Churchill was my favorite character on The Crown. And so I was like, wait a minute, Winston Churchill was a passenger on the Queen Mary. He planned D-Day on the Queen Mary. I was learning all this stuff, and I thought, this ship is amazing. Why is nobody talking about this? And so I wrote down all this information. We went there the next day, and it was so weird. I'd been to the Queen Mary a few times in my life, never felt anything, but as soon as I walked aboard the decks that day, and I was an adult finally, because the last time I'd been on the Queen Mary before that, I was still a teenager. So walking on board the Queen Mary as an adult and being able to appreciate it for what it is, I fell in love immediately. It was really weird. It was like, up until that point, I was a strict Titanic fan. And I got aboard the Queen Mary, and I was like, it's beat up, but it's beautiful. There's something about that ship. And it was really weird, I started meeting people through the fact that, I became obsessed with the Queen Mary, and so, yeah, it was just really weird, walking through the ship and just slowly falling in love with it and just being like, this is amazing. Why is no one talking about this? Why is there, there's so much to see and so much to do, and there's so much potential that is being lost with the ship. People don't know how to run it. So it was just it was frustrating. I was like immediately I was like, I need to find out who's helping the ship. I need to find out how I can help the ship. And I started to learn that there was no way to help the ship. I learned that there was literally no way for the public to help the Queen Mary. I thought that was weird because all my life I had heard about historic ships having foundations that allow people to come aboard and volunteer their time to repaint something or whatever. The Queen Mary didn't have that. And I was like, why? Why doesn't she have that? And I learned about QMI, QMI Restore the Queen. And this was before I actually spoke to them. I learned about them, and I learned that the city wasn't allowing them to help. And I thought, well, that's really weird, but, I thought, well, what can I do? What can I do? I'm just a random person. But then I thought, I have 20,000 people watching my channel. It's not much, but I feel like if I show people what I saw, if I show people why I love this ship so much, maybe they'll love it too and they'll care. And then maybe if enough people love and care about the ship, maybe we can do something. Because me and myself, I can't do anything by myself. And like I said, that's when, after making a bunch of videos, that's when I got contacted by Mary from QMI. We've had conversations ever since. I think we talk on the phone maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. It's that often. And we just talk about our plans for the ship. We talk about what we want to do next. We talk about all right, here's the conversations we've had with the city this time. We talk about like what's happening with the ship in the news. Every time there's a new article published about the Queen Mary, we all share it with each other and we discuss it. And we go, okay, what is being said about the ship? How can we try to get the word out and correct that information? Because there's so much misinformation. So I may not be able to climb aboard the ship and do some repainting. I would do it in a heartbeat. If they allowed it, I would be there. I would volunteer my time to help restore the ship if they allowed it, but they don't. So yeah, that's my little thing. Sorry I went on a big rant. It was just like, as you can tell, I care a lot about the ship. Let's see. Alan says, I sailed on the QE2 transatlantic in... Sorry. Oh, I'm getting tired because of all this sugar. I sailed on the QE2 transatlantic in the 70s and 80s. I haven't sailed on Queen Mary 2 yet. Bucket list. Yep, my bucket list too. MLGH says, I was always a Titanic fan, but it wasn't until 2020 I discovered other liners. Yeah, same here. Once I fell in love with the Queen Mary, I started discovering other ocean liners. I was like, I didn't, at the time, when Titanic was my only ocean liner I liked, I honestly didn't think that there were other ocean liners I could like. Like I said, I knew about the Queen Mary. I hadn't been on board that often. I couldn't appreciate things as a little kid. You know, I was a little kid. You know, it didn't matter to me. But then after the Queen Mary, I realized, I'm like, I have to open my eyes. I have to look at other ships. And I did, and I was able to appreciate, I think the first ship after the Queen Mary, I was like, Mauritania. Mauritania all the way. Loved it. Lusitania, and, you know, Oceanic, and stuff like that. And one of the earlier ships I became a little bit obsessed with was the SS Princess Louise, which some people might say is pronounced Louise or something, but yeah, SS Princess Louise. I made a short video on her because there really wasn't much else to say, so it was only 7 minutes long. But yeah, you know, it just. And now SS Keewatin is another ship I'd love to eventually cover. A friend of mine, Chris, he films stuff all the time. He was going to go visit the SS Keewatin and try to document it in 4K. And I said, hey, if you do, send me some of that footage. I'll make a video about SS Keewatin. He called and called and called and called and called that company to try to make a deal where he can come up to Canada and film it. That company would not answer any of their calls. It almost seemed like that company was out of business, in fact. So, yeah, it was disappointing because SS Keewatin is older than Titanic, and it is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's so well kept. It's so well restored. The volunteers who were restoring it up until it closed were doing such a phenomenal job. When you look at pictures of SS Keewatin, it looks like you're almost stepping aboard Titanic. It's that amazing. So yeah. I wish I could have gotten footage of SS Keewatin, made a video, but, you know. S. Karthik says, is the Olympic class overrated? It's overrated in the sense that people put way too much accolades on it. People always label it as the best, the greatest, the whatever you want to call it, of whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, look, they were great ships. They were beautiful. But now that I'm older and I'm more aware of other ships, I realize that the Olympic class, they were absolutely luxurious. They were beautiful, but they weren't the best of anything. You know, they had average interiors. They had average, you know, uh, uh, propulsion. Yeah, they and they weren't designed to be the best of anything. If anything, they were designed to be reliable. And by all means, look at Olympic. Olympic did an amazing job for, what was it, like 20 years? Maybe less? Was it less? 20 years. Let's just call it 20 years. I can't do the math in my head. Yeah, so, for 20 years, Olympic did an astounding job, and it was reliable. And that's exactly what the Olympic class was designed for. But people put these accolades on there like, it was the most luxurious, it was the greatest, it was the most advanced of its time, and it doesn't deserve all those accolades. It's a bit much. So, yeah. Matthew says, if people want a view on an ocean liner, just go to the promenade of Queen Mary. Yeah, yeah. Matthew says, will cruise ships become too big? Me, I already think they're too big. Yeah, I think cruise ships are only going to get bigger, to be honest. Not all of them. I think there will be a point where ship companies will be like, you know what? This size is good enough, I think they already have, in fact. I think the average cruise ship is like 900 feet long. And that's a perfectly decent size. It does what they need it to do. It goes where it needs to be able to go. But when you have cruise ships that are like 1,300 feet long, I don't know if that's an actual length, but when you have them 1,300, 1,500 feet long, then it becomes ridiculous. You can't fit them anywhere. And so I think there will be a point where they'll settle down and they'll stop building them that big, Fun fact, the Queen Mary II, when she was put into service, she was the largest ocean liner ever built, and by technicality, the largest cruise ship ever built, because she was designed for cruising as well. She was the largest passenger ship in the world when she was put into service. She was quickly outmatched, though. Other ship lines immediately started building larger ships, but it is pretty cool to think that, because Queen Mary II is huge, but now when you look at the Oasis class ships, you're just like, oh, you're like, Queen Mary II can't compare to the size of those ships, but yeah, and I mean size dimensionally, so. Robert says, I was aboard Keewatin in 2019, really a spectacular ship and very dedicated staff. The current owners are trying to get rid of her. Hopefully somebody will step in and secure her future. Yeah, that's the funny thing is I did read that the owners were trying to get rid of her. But the funny thing is my friend, like I said, my friend was calling and calling and calling them for months. They never picked up their phones. And all their messages on their phone lines were full. They never emptied them. So my friend was like, I think they're out of business. I'm like, I think they're out of business too. Like, I literally think there's no one there. Like, I think that the company that owned it is like either out of business or they're going out of business. Because that company that owns it, they also owned a few hotels, and those hotels were hit hard by the pandemic. So I have a feeling they're actually out of business, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, if they're not, why wouldn't anyone at the company answer their phones, and why would their messages all be full, Yeah, Olympic was called Old Reliable. Matthew says, Titanic is the most famous ship and she will always have that title. Yeah, probably. In fact, we should actually say, let's hope Titanic is always the most famous ship for that reason. Because let's hope there is never a tragedy that surpasses Titanic's in terms of passengers. In fact, wasn't there one? Titanic is the most famous, but wasn't there a passenger ship that sank after that had more deaths on it? Jeez. Yeah, yeah, I agree, Alan. I think the Oasis class is the largest they'll get. Alright, you guys, it's been 2 hours. I think we have talked and talked and talked as much as we can. And pretty soon, I'm going to do a live stream on my Alex Adner channel. I think we're going to play this World War II game called Enlisted. I'm still talking to my friends to see if that's what they want to do. It's a really cool game. So if you like watching, people play games, then I'll be live streaming on that channel. The link to that channel is in the description below. Was it Wilhelm Gustloff? I wasn't sure. I don't know the name of the ship that sank, but with 9,000 passengers dying on it. Yeah, oh my gosh, that is incredible. 9,000 people died? Oh man. God, that is so much. That's got to be the largest maritime disaster in history, right? That's got to be the largest maritime disaster. But next tea time will be on Tuesday. I forgot what day it was. Tuesday. Yeah, we'll be on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going to try to publish either a live stream or a video every day this week, so keep an eye out for that. And anything else I need to tell you guys? I feel like there is. I feel like there's something really big I should be telling you, but I can't remember it. Yeah. Oh, but from now on, if you want to see me do like walkthroughs of the Titanic game, the Demo 401, all that will be on the Alex Adner channel. Because this channel really isn't meant for games, but the Alex Adner channel is designed for historic, fun stuff. So the Alex Adner channel will have the games and things on it that are all historic related. Disneyland Railroad game, Enlisted, Titanic Simulator, Railroad Simulator, the Railroads Online Simulator, that kind of thing. So historic games will be on that channel. So, the fellow attorney says, "Hey Alex, hope you're enjoying our Oregon sunshine today. Just remember the saying, if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. Yeah, I know. I prefer the rain and the clouds, believe it or not. That's one of the reasons why I moved up here. Is I grew up in Southern California. I hate the sunlight. I don't know why. I hate it. I hate the warm weather. I like the cold and the rain and the snow and all that stuff. I'm weird. I know, I'm really weird. Oriana says, when will the Railroads Online game be played again? I don't know. Maybe tomorrow night, maybe? I did play it the other day. I don't know if you saw that one. I don't remember if you were there. Forgive me, but I did do it the other night, so... But yeah, I think we might do it tomorrow night. But sometime this week, I want to do the Titanic game again and the Disneyland Railroad Simulator again as well. So, anyway, Keith. Hey, Keith. I'm sorry, Keith. I'm ending the live stream now. But anyway, thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.